Alright, here we go, man. This is the beginning of all the games to do this in. I just do it in this one because of the virtual cabin being as quiet as it is and peaceful, if you could call it that. Here we are, the virtual cabin. Here we are. Alright. So we have Homer's The Iliad and the Odyssey. The quote on the back says, "Of all creatures that breathe and move upon the earth, nothing is bred that is weaker than man." The Odyssey. Translated by Samuel Butler. Alright. So this is like the intro, or this is like the preface to the preface, I guess. Homer is known to have authored the first known literature of Europe. He is revered as one of the greatest of the ancient Greek epic poets in the Western classical tradition, and is credited with the enduring epic tales of the Iliad and the Odyssey. Though when he lived is not known, it is estimated by Herodotus, a Greek historian, that Homer lived around 400 years before his own time. This places him somewhere around 800 to 900 BC, while some ancient sources claim that he lived close to the supposed time of the Trojan War in the early 12th century BC. Most modern researchers place him in the 7th or 8th century BC. The details of Homer's background and birthplace have been purported by various traditions. As per pseudo-Herodotus, Homer's unknown biographer, he belonged to the valley of Smyrna on the banks of the river Meles. Smyrna was an ancient city on the Aegean coast, and one of the principal ancient Greek settlements. In present times it is known as Izmir, Turkey. Plato's The Republic describes Plato's significance to the ancient Greeks. He was described as the teacher of Greece, for the growing influence of Homeric epics in shaping Greek culture was widely recognized. His works are about 50% speeches and provide models in persuasive writing and speaking. The Iliad and the Odyssey, attributed to Homer, were an important part of the Greek culture. Whether it was collective effort or Homer alone wrote these is still debated upon by the scholars. The Iliad is written in Attic Greek, which is the main Greek dialect. It is sometimes referred to as the Song of Ilion. It gives a detailed poetic description of the War of Troy and expounds the battle and events during the weeks of quarrels between King Agamemnon and warrior Achilles, alluding to many Greek legends and folklores about the siege. The story covers only the last year of the war. It has strong religious and supernatural influences, with both the Greek and the Trojan heroes being extremely religious, blessed with divine power from their favorite gods. Through vividly portrayed characters and memorable descriptions of battle, Homer has glorified war in the Iliad. He also seems to hold up with a notion that the victory of military values overrides family life. Amidst everything else, Homer reminds the readers of the impermanence of mortals and their creations. The Iliad, written in dactylic or heroic hexameter, is among the oldest extant works of Western literature. Nearly all editions, ancient, modern, and translations, are divided into 24 books. It continues to remain a rare classic with an extremely captivating lyrical beauty. The Odyssey, a sequel to the Iliad, recounts the journey of the eponymous character Ulysses, the legendary king of Ithaca. After the 10-year-long Trojan War and the fall of the city of Troy, he spends the next 10 eventful years struggling to return home. The poem opens in the middle of the story and then goes on to describe the events through storytelling and flashbacks. Like the Iliad, the Odyssey is also written in dactylic hexameter. It comprises 12,110 lines and is divided into 24 books, a grand masterpiece. It is the second oldest extant work of the Western literature. Both these Homeric epics continue to influence the Western civilization. Alright. The Iliad. Preface. The headmaster of one of our foremost public schools told me not long since that he had been asked what canons he thought it most essential to observe in translating from English into Latin. His answer was that in the first place the Latin must be idiomatic, in the second it must flow, and in the third it must keep as near as it could to the English from which it was being translated. I said, then you hold that if either the Latin or the English must perforce give place, it is the English that should yield rather than the Latin. This, he replied, was his opinion, and surely the very sound canons above given apply to all translations. The genius of the language into which a translation is being made is the first thing to be considered. If the original was unreadable, the translation must be so also, however good it may be. As a construe, it is not a translation. It follows that a translation should depart hardly at all from the modes of speech current in the translator's own times, inasmuch as nothing is readable for long which affects any other diction than that of the age in which it was written. We know the charm of the Elizabethan translations, but he who would attempt one that shall vie with these must eschew all Elizabethanisms that are not good Victorianisms also. For the charm of the Elizabethans does not lie in their Elizabethanisms. These are but as the mosses and lichens, which time will grow upon our Victorian literature, as surely as he has grown them upon the Elizabethan. Upon such of it, at least as has not been jerry-built. Shakespeare tells us that it is time's glory to stamp the seal of time on aged things, no doubt, but he will have no hands stamp it save his own. He will rot in artificial ruin, but he will not glorify it. If he is to hallow any work, it must be frankly secular when he designs it to take it in hand. By this I mean honestly, after the manner of its own age and country. The Elizabethans probably knew just this too well, to know that they knew it, but whether they knew it or no, they did not lard a crib with paroxysms and think they were translating. They aimed fearlessly and without taint of affection at making a dead author living to a generation other than his own. To do this, they transfused their blood into his cold veins and quickened him with their own livingness. Then the life is theirs, not his. In part, no doubt, it is so. But if they have loved him well enough, his life will have entered into them and possessed them. They will have given him of their life, and he will have paid them in their own coin. If, however, the mouth of the ox who treads out the corn may not be muzzled, and if there is to be a certain give and take between the dead author and his translator, it follows that a translator should be allowed greater liberty when the work he is translating belongs to an age and a country widely remote from his own. For a poem's prosperity, it's likely a jest. It is in the ear of him that hears it. It takes two people to say a thing, a sayee as well as a sayer, and by parity of reasoning, a poem's original audience and environment are integral parts of the poem itself. Poem and audience are as ego and non-ego. They blend into one another. Change either, and some corresponding change, spiritual rather than literal, will be necessary in the other, if the original harmony between them is to be preserved. Happily, in the cases both of the Iliad and the Odyssey, we can see clearly enough that the audience did not differ so widely from ourselves as we might expect after an interval of some 3,000 years. But they differ, especially in the case of the Iliad, and the difference necessitates a greater amount of freedom on the part of a translator than would be tolerable if it did not exist. Freedom of another kind is further involved in the initial liberty of rendering in prose a work that was composed in verse. Prose differs from verse, much as singing from speaking or dancing from walking, and what is right in the one is often wrong in the other. Prose, for example, does not permit that iteration of epithet and title, sometimes due merely to the requirements of meter, and sometimes autois, which abounds in the Iliad, without in any way disfiguring it. We look indeed for the iteration and enjoy it. We are never weary of being told that Juno is white-armed, Minerva gray-eyed, and Agamemnon king of men. But had Homer written in prose, he would not have told us these things so often. Therefore, though frequently allowing common form epithets and titles to recur, I have not less frequently suppressed them. Lest, however, the reader should imagine that I have departed from the letter of the Iliad more than I have, I will give the first 50 lines or so, if the best prose translation that has yet been made, I mean that of Messrs. Leaf, Lang, and Myers, to which throughout my work I have been greatly indebted. Often have they saved me from error, and rarely have I found occasion to differ from them as to the meaning of a passage. I do not believe that I have translated a single paragraph without reference to them. But this said, a comparison of their opening paragraphs with my own will show the kind of way in which I differ from them as to the manner in which Homer should be translated. Their translation here by Dr. Leaf opens thus: Sing, goddess, the wrath of Achilles, Peleus' son, the ruinous wrath that brought on the Achaeans woes innumerable, and hurled down into Hades many strong souls of heroes, and gave their bodies to be a prey to dogs and all winged fowls, and so the counsels of Zeus wrought out its accomplishment from the day when strife first parted. Atrides, king of men, and noble Achilles, who then among the gods set the twain at strife and variance, even the son of Leto and of Zeus, for he in anger and that the king sent a sore plague upon the host, that the folk began to perish, because Atreides had done dishonor to Chrysis, the priest, for he had come to the Achaeans' fleet ships to win his daughter's freedom, and brought a ransom beyond telling, and bare in his hands the fillet of Apollo, the far darter, upon a golden staff, and made his prayer unto all the Achaeans, and most of all to the two sons of Atreus, orderers of the host. Ye sons of Atreus, and all ye well-grieved Achaeans, now may the gods that dwell in the mansions of Olympus grant you to lay waste the city of Priam, and to fare happily homeward. Only set ye my dear child free, and accept the ransom in reverence. To the son of Zeus, far-darting Apollo. Then all other Achaeans cried assent to reverence. The priest did accept his goodly ransom. Yet the thing pleased not the heart of Agamemnon, son of Atreus, but he roughly sent him away, and laid stern charge upon him, saying, Let me not find thee, old man, amid the hollow ships, whether tarrying now, or returning again hereafter, lest the staff and fillet of the god avail thee naught, and her will I not set free, nay, ere that shall old age come on her in her house, in Argos, far from her native land, where she shall ply the loom and serve my couch. But depart, provoke me not, that thou mayest the rather go in peace. So said he, and the old man was afraid and obeyed his word, and fared silently along the shore of the loud-sounding sea. Then went that aged man apart and prayed aloud to King Apollo, whom Leto of the fair locks bare. Hear me, god of the silver bow, that standest over Chris and holy Killa, and rulest Tenedos, with might, O Smintheus, if ever I built a temple gracious in thine eyes, or if ever I burnt to thee fat flesh of thighs, of bulls or goats, fulfill thou is this my desire. Let the Danaans pay by thine arrows for my tears. So spake he in prayer, and Phoebus Apollo heard him, and came down from the peaks of Olympus, wroth at heart, bearing on his shoulders his bow and covered quiver, and the arrows clanged upon his shoulders in his wrath, as the god moved, and he descended like tonight. Then he sate him aloof from the ships, and let an arrow fly, and there was heard a dread clanging of the silver bow. First did he assail the mules and fleet dogs, but afterward, aiming at the men his piercing dart, he smote, and the pyres of the dead burnt continually in multitude. I have given the foregoing extract with less compunction, by reason of the reflection ever present with me, that not a few readers, nor these the least cultured, will prefer Dr. Leaf's translation to my own. Throughout my work, I have taken the same kind of liberties as those that the reader will readily detect if he compares Dr. Leaf's rendering with mine. But I do not believe that I have anywhere taken greater ones. The difference between us in the prayer of Chrysis, where Dr. Leaf translates, if ever I built a temple, while I render, if ever I decked your temple with garlands, is not a case in point, for it is due to my preferring Liddell and Scott's translation. I very readily admit that Dr. Leaf has in the main kept more closely to the words of Homer, but I believe him to have lost more of the spirit of the original through his abandonment, no doubt deliberate, of all attempt at stately, and at the same time easily musical flow of language than he has gained in adherence to the letter, to which, after all, neither he nor any man can adhere. These last words may suggest that I claim graces which Dr. Leaf has not attained. I can make no such claim. All I claim is to have done my best towards making the less sanguinary parts of the Iliad interesting to English readers. The more sanguinary parts cannot be made interesting. Indeed, I doubt whether they can ever have been so, or even been intended to be so, to a highly cultivated audience. They had to be written, and they were written. But it is clear that Homer often wrote them with impatience, and that actual warfare was distasteful to him, as it was foreign to his experience. Happily, there is much less fighting in the Iliad than people generally think. One word more, and I have done. I have burdened my translation with as few notes as possible, intending to preserve what I have to say about the Iliad generally, for another work to be undertaken when my complete translation of the Odyssey has been printed. Lastly, the reception of my recent book, The Authoress of the Odyssey, has convinced me that the general reader much prefers the Latinized names of gods and heroes to those which it has of late years been attempted to popularize. I have no hesitation, therefore, in adhering to the nomenclature to which Pope Mr. Gladstone and Lord Derby have long since familiarized the public. Samuel Butler, August 8, 1898. And that was the preface. Alright, and now for Book 1. The quarrel between Agamemnon and Achilles. Achilles withdraws from the war and sends his mother Thetis to ask Jove to help the Trojans. Scene between Jove and Juno on Olympus. Sing, O goddess, the anger of Achilles, son of Peleus, that brought countless ills upon the Achaeans. Many a brave soul did it send hurrying down to Hades, and many a hero did it yield, a prey to dogs and vultures, for so were the counsels of Jove fulfilled, from the day on which the son of Atreus, king of men, and great Achilles first fell out with one another. And which of the gods was it that set them on to quarrel? It was the son of Jove and Leto, for he was angry with the king and sent a pestilence upon the host to plague the people. Because the son of Atreus had dishonored Chryses, his priest, now Chryses had some of the ships of the Achaeans to free his daughter, and had brought with him a great ransom. Moreover, he bore in his hand the scepter of Apollo, wreathed with a suppliant's wreath, and he besought the Achaeans, but most of all the two sons of Atreus, who were their chiefs. Sons of Atreus, he cried, and all other Achaeans, may the gods who dwell in Olympus grant you to sack the city of Priam, and to reach your homes in safety. But free my daughter, and accept a ransom for her, in reverence to Apollo, son of Jove. On this the rest of the Achaeans with one voice were for respecting the priest and taking the ransom that he offered, but not so Agamemnon, who spoke fiercely to him, and sent him roughly away. Old man, he said he, let me not find you tearing about our ships, nor yet coming hereafter. Your scepter of the god and your wreath shall profit you nothing. I will not free her. She shall grow old in my house at Argos, far from her own home, busying herself with her loom and visiting my couch. So go, and do not provoke me, or it shall be the worse for you. The old man feared him and obeyed. Not a word he spoke, but went by the shore of the sounding sea, and prayed apart to King Apollo, whom lovely Leto had borne. Hear me, he cried, O god of the silver bow, that protectest Christ and holy Scylla, and rulest Tenedos with thy might. Hear me, O thou of Sminth, if I have ever decked your temple with garlands, or burned your thigh bones in fat of bulls or goats. Grant my prayer, and let your arrows avenge these, my tears upon the Danaans. Thus did he pray, and Apollo heard his prayer. He came down furious from the summits of Olympus, with his bow and his quiver upon his shoulder, and the arrows rattled on his back. With the rage that trembled within him, he sat himself down away from the ships with a face as dark as night, and his silver bow rang death as he shot his arrow in the midst of them. First he smote their mules and their hounds, but presently he aimed his shafts at the people themselves, and all day long the pyres of the dead were burning. For 9 whole days he shot his arrows among the people, but upon the 10th day Achilles called them in assembly, moved thereto by Juno, who saw the Achaeans in their death throes, and had compassion upon them. Then, when they were got together, he rose and spoke among them. Son of Atreus, said he, I deem that we should now turn roving home if we would escape destruction, for we are being cut down by war and pestilence at once. Let us ask some priest or prophet or some reader of dreams, for dreams too are of Jove, who can tell us why Phoebus Apollo is so angry, and say whether it is for some vow that we have broken, or hecatomb that we have not offered, and whether he will accept the Savior of lambs and goats without blemish, so as to take away the plague from us. With these words he sat down, and Calchas, son of Thestor, wisest of augurs, who knew things past, present, and to come, rose to speak. He said it was who had guided the Achaeans with their fleet to Iliad, through the prophesyings with which Phoebus Apollo had inspired him. With all sincerity and goodwill he addressed them thus: Achilles, loved of heaven, and bid me tell you about the anger of King Apollo. I will therefore do so, but consider first and swear that you will stand by me heartily in word and deed, for I know that I shall offend one who rules the Argives with might, to whom all the Achaeans are in subjection. A plain man cannot stand against the anger of a king, who if he swallow his displeasure now, will yet nurse revenge till he has wreaked it. Consider therefore whether or no you will protect me. And Achilles answered, Fear not, but speak as it is borne in upon you from heaven. For by Apollo, Calchas, to whom you pray, and whose oracles you reveal to us, not a Danaan at our ships shall lay his hand upon you, while I yet live to look upon the face of the earth. No, not though you name Agamemnon himself, who is by far the foremost of the Achaeans. Thereon the seers spoke boldly. The god, he said, is angry neither about vow nor hecatomb, but for his priest's sake, whom Agamemnon has dishonored, and that he would not free his daughter, nor take a ransom for her. Therefore he has sent these evils upon us. And will yet send others. He will not deliver the Danaans from his pestilence, till Agamemnon has restored the girl without fee or ransom to her father, and has sent a holy hecatomb to Christ. Thus we may perhaps appease him. With these words he sat down, and Agamemnon rose in anger. His heart was black with rage, and his eyes flashed fire as he scowled on Calchas and said, Seer of evil, you never yet prophesied smooth things concerning me, but have ever loved to foretell that which was evil. You have brought me neither comfort nor performance, and now you come seeing among Danaans and saying that Apollo has plagued us, because I would not take a ransom for this girl, the daughter of Christ. I have yet set my heart on keeping her in my own house, for I love her better ever than my own wife Clytemnestra, whose peer she is alike in form and feature, in understanding and accomplishment. Still I will give her up if I must, for I would have the people live, not die. But you must find me a prize instead, or I alone among the Argives shall be without one. This is not well, for you, behold, all of you, that my prize is to go elsewhither. And Achilles answered, Most noble son of Atreus, covetous beyond all mankind, how shall the Achaeans find you another prize? We have no common store from which to take one. Those we took from the cities have been awarded. We cannot disallow the awards that have been made already. Give this girl, therefore, to the god, and if ever Jove grants us to sack the city of Troy, we will requite you 3 and 4-fold. Then Agamemnon said, Achilles, valiant though you be, you shall not thus outwit me. You shall not overreach, and you shall not persuade me. Are you to keep your own prize while I sit tamely under my loss and give up the girl at your bidding? Let the Achaeans find me a prize in fair exchange to my liking, or I will come and take your own, or that of Ajax, or of Ulysses, and he to whomsoever I may come shall rue my coming. But of this we will take thought hereafter. For the present let us draw a ship into the sea, and find a crew for her expressly. Let us put a hecatomb on board, and let us send Chryseis also. Further, let some chief man among us be in command, either Ajax or Idomeneus, or yourself, son of Peleus, mighty warrior that you are, that we may offer sacrifice and appease the anger of the god. Achilles scowled at him and answered, You are steeped in insolence and lust of gain. With what heart can any of the Achaeans do your bidding, either on foray or in the opening fighting? I came not warring here for any ill. The Trojans had done me. I have no quarrel with them. They have not raided my cattle nor my horses, nor cut down my harvests on the rich plains of Phthia. For between me and them there is great space, both mountain and sounding sea. We have followed you, Sir Insolence, for your pleasure, not ours, to gain satisfaction from the Trojans, for your shameless self and for Menelaus. You forget this, and threaten to rob me of the prize for which I have toiled, and which the sons of Achaeans have given me. Never when the Achaeans sacked the rich city of the Trojans do I receive so good a prize as you do, though it is my hands that do the better part of the fighting. When the sharing comes, your share is far the largest, and I, forsooth, must go back to my ships, take what I can get, and be thankful. When my labor of fighting is done, now, therefore I shall go back to Phthia. It will be much better for me to return home with my ships, for I will not stay here dishonored to gather gold and substance for you. And Agamemnon answered, Fly if you will. I shall make you no prayers to stay you. I have others here who will do me honor. And above all, Jove, the Lord of counsel, there is no king here so hateful to me as you are, for you are ever quarrelsome and ill-affected. What though you be brave? Was it not heaven that made you? So go home, then, with your ships and comrades to lord it over the Myrmidons. I care neither for you nor for your anger. And thus will I do, since Phoebus Apollo is taking Chryseis from me. I shall send her with my ship and my followers, but I shall come to your tent and take your own prize, Chryseis, that you may learn how much stronger I am than you are, and that another may fear to set himself up as equal or comparable with me. The son of Peleus was furious, and his heart within his shaggy breast was divided, whether to draw his sword push the others aside, and kill the son of Atreus, or to restrain himself and check his anger. While he was thus in two minds, and was drawing his mighty sword from its scabbard, Minerva came down from heaven for Juno, and sent her in the love she bore to them both, and seized the son of Peleus by his yellow hair, visible to him alone. For of the others no man could see her. Achilles turned in amaze, and by the fire that flashed from her eyes, that once knew that she was Minerva. "Why are you here?" said he, "daughter of Aegus, bearing Jove? To see the pride of Agamemnon, son of Atreus? Let me tell you, and it shall surely be, he shall pay for his insolence with his life." And Minerva said, "I come from heaven, if you will not hear me, to bid you stay your anger. Juno has sent me, who cares for both of you alike. Cease then this brawling, and do not draw your sword. Rail at him, if you will, and your railing will not be vain. For I tell you, and it shall surely be, that you shall hereafter receive gifts 3 times as splendid by reason of his presence insult. Hold therefore and obey." "Goddess," answered Achilles, "however angry a man may be, he must do as you two command him. This will be best, for the gods ever hear the prayers of him who has obeyed them." He stayed his hand on the silver hilt of his sword, and thrust it back into the scabbard, as Minerva bade him. Then he went back to Olympus among the other gods, and to the house of Aegus, bearing Jove. But the son of Peleus again began railing at the son of Atreus, for he was still in rage. Wine-bibber," he cried, "with the face of a dog and the heart of a hind. You never dare to go out with the host in a fight, nor yet with our chosen men in ambuscade. You shun this as you do death itself. You had rather go around and rob his prizes from any man who contradicts you. You devour your people, for you are king over feeble folk. Otherwise, son of Atreus, henceforward you would insult no man. Therefore, I say and swear it with a great oath. Nay, by this my scepter, which shall sprout neither leaf nor shoot, nor bud anew from the day on which it left its parent stem upon the mountains. For the axe stripped it, and the guardians of the decrees of heaven. So surely and solemnly do I swear that hereafter they shall look fondly for Achilles, and shall not find him. In the day of your distress, when your men fall, dying by the murderous hand of Hector, you shall not know how to help them, and shall rend your heart with rage for the hour when you offered insult to the bravest of the Achaeans. With this the son of Peleus dashed his gold-bestudded scepter on the ground, and took his seat, while the son of Atreus was beginning fiercely from his place upon the other side. Then uprose smooth-tongued Nestor, the facile speaker of the Pylians, and the words fell from his lips, sweeter than honey. 2 generations of men born and bred in Pylos had passed away under his rule, and he was now reigning over the 3rd with all sincerity and goodwill. Therefore he addressed them thus. "Of a truth," he said, "a great sorrow has befallen the Achaeans' land. Surely Priam with his sons would rejoice, and the Trojans be glad at heart that if they could hear this quarrel between you two, who are so excellent in fight and counsel. I am older than either of you, therefore be guided by me. Moreover, I have been the familiar friend of men even greater than you are, and they did not disregard my counsels. Never again can I behold such men as Pirithous and Dryas, shepherd of his people, or Canius Exadius, godlike. Polyphemus, and Theseus, son of Agus, peer of the immortals. These were the mightiest men ever born upon this earth. Mightiest were they. And when they fought the fiercest tribes of mountain savages, they utterly overthrew them. I came from distant Pylos, and went about among them, for they would have me come, and I fought as it was in me to do so. Not a man now living could withstand them. But they heard my words, and were persuaded by them. So be it also with yourselves, for this is the more excellent way. Therefore, Agamemnon, though you be strong, take not this girl away, for the sons of the Achaeans have already given her to Achilles. And you, Achilles, strive not further with the king, for no man who by the grace of Jove wields a scepter, his like honor with Agamemnon. You are strong, and have a goddess for your mother, but Agamemnon is stronger than you, for he has more people under him. Son of Atreus, check your anger, I implore you. End this quarrel with Achilles, who in the day of battle is a tower of strength to the Achaeans. And Agamemnon answered, Sir, all that you have said is true, but this fellow must needs become our lord and master. He must be lord of all, king of all, and captain of all, and this shall hardly be granted by that the gods have made him a great warrior. Have they also given him the right to speak with railing? Achilles interrupted him. I should be a mean coward, he cried, were I to give in to you in all things. Order other people about, not me, for I shall obey no longer. Furthermore, I say, and lay my saying to your heart, I shall fight neither you nor any man about this girl. For those that take were those also that gave. But of all else that is at my ship, you shall carry away nothing by force. Try that others may see. If you do, my spear shall be reddened with your blood. When they had quarreled thus angrily, they rose and broke up the assembly at the ships of the Achaeans. The son of Peleus went back to his tents in ships with the son of Menelaus, his company, while Agamemnon drew a vessel into the water and chose a crew of 20 oarsmen. He escorted Chryseis on board, and sent moreover a hecatomb for the god, and Ulysses went as captain. There, then, went on board. These then went on board, and sailed their ways over the sea. But the son of Atreus bade the people purify themselves. So they purified themselves and cast their filth into the sea. Then they offered hecatombs, or bulls and goats without blemish, on the seashore, and smoke with the savour of their sacrifice rose curling up toward heaven. Thus did they busy themselves throughout the host. But Agamemnon did not forget the threat that he had made Achilles, and called his trusty messengers and squires, Talthybius and Eurybates. Go, said he, to the tent of Achilles, son of Peleus. Take Briseis by the hand, and bring her hither. If he will not give her, I shall come with others and take her, which will press him harder. He charged them straightly further and dismissed them, whereon they went their way sorrowfully by the seaside, till they came to the tents and ships of Myrmidons. They found Achilles sitting by his tent and his ships, and ill-pleased. He was when he had, and ill-pleased he was when he beheld them. They stood fearfully and reverently before him, and never a word did they speak. But he knew them, and said, Welcome, heralds, messengers of gods and men. Draw near. My quarrel is not with you, but with Agamemnon, who sent you for the girl, Briseis. Therefore, Patroclus, bring her and give her to them. But let them be witnesses by the blessed gods, by mortal men, and by the fierceness of Agamemnon's anger, that if ever again there be need of me to save the people from ruin, they shall seek and they shall not find. Agamemnon is mad with rage, and knows not how to look before and after, that the Achaeans may fight by their ships in safety. Patroclus did as his dear comrade had bidden him. He brought Briseis from the tent and gave her over to the heralds, who took her with them to the ships of the Achaeans. And the woman was loth to go. Then Achilles went all alone by the side of the Hoar Sea, weeping and looking upon the boundless waste of waters. He raised his hands in prayer to his immortal mother. Mother, he cried, you bore me doomed to live but for a little season. Surely Jove, he thunders from Olympus, might have made that little glorious, but is not so. Agamemnon, son of Atreus, has done me dishonor, and has robbed me of my prize by force. As he spoke, he wept aloud, and his mother heard him where she was sitting in the depths of the sea, hard by the old man, her father. Forthwith she rose as it were a grey mist out of the waves, and sat down before him, and as he stood weeping, caressed him with her hand, and said, My son, why are you weeping? What is it that grieves you? Keep it not from me, but tell me, that we may know it together. Achilles drew a deep sigh and said, You know it. Why tell you what you know already? We went to Thebe, the strong city of Aetion, sacked it, and brought hither the spoil. The sons of the Achaeans shared it duly among themselves, and close lovely Chryseis was the meed of Agamemnon. But Chryseis, priest of Apollo, came to the ships of the Achaeans to free his daughter, and brought with him a great ransom. Moreover, he bore in his hand the scepter of Apollo, wreathed with a suppliant's wreath, and he besought the Achaeans, but most of all the two sons of Atreus, who were their chiefs. On this the rest of the Achaeans, with one voice, were for respecting the priest and taking the ransom that he offered, but not so Agamemnon, who spoke fiercely to him and sent him roughly away. So he went back in anger, and Apollo, who loved him dearly, heard his prayer. Then the gods sent a deadly start upon the Argives, and the people died thick on one another, for the arrows went every withering among the wide hosts of the Achaeans. At last, a seer in the fullness of his knowledge declared to us the oracles of Apollo, and I was myself first to say that we should appease him. Whereon the son of Atreus rose in anger, and threatened that which he has since done. The Achaeans are now taking the girl in a ship to Chryseis, and sending gifts of sacrifice to the god. But the heralds have just taken from my tent the daughter of Briscus, whom the Achaeans had awarded to myself. Help your brave son, therefore, if you are able to go to Olympus, and if you have ever done him service in word or deed, implore the aid of Jove. Ofttimes in my father's house I have heard you glory in that you alone, the immortals, saved the son of Saturn from ruin, when the others with Juno, Neptune, and Pallas Minerva's would have put him in bonds. It was you, goddess, who delivered him by calling to Olympus the hundred-handed monster whom gods call Brericus, but men Aegeon, for he is stronger even than his father, When therefore he took his seat all glorious beside the son of Saturn, the other gods were afraid, and did not bind him. Go then to him, remind him of all this, clasp his knees, and bid him give succor to the Trojans. Let the Achaeans be hammered in at the sterns of their ships, and perish on the seashore. They may recap what joy they may of their king, and that Agamemnon may rue his blindness in offering insult to the foremost of the Achaeans. Thetis wept and answered, My son, woe is me that I should have borne or suckled you. Would indeed that you had lived your span free from all sorrow at your ships, for it is all too brief, alas, that you should be at once short of life and long of sorrow, above your peers. Woe, therefore, as with the hour in which I bore you. Nevertheless, I will go to the snowy heights of Olympus and tell this tale to Jove. If he will hear our prayer, meanwhile, stay where you are with your ships, nurse your anger against the Achaeans, and hold aloof from fight. For Jove went yesterday to Oceanus to a feast among the Ethiopians, and the other gods went with him. He will return to Olympus 12 days hence. I will then go to his mansion, paved with bronze, and all beseech him, nor do I doubt that I shall be able to persuade him. On this she left him, still furious at the loss of her that had been taken from him. Meanwhile Ulysses reached Chris with the hecatomb. When they had come inside the harbor, they furled the souls and laid them into the ship's hold. They were slackened and forestays lowered the sails and laid them in the ship's hold. They slackened and forestays, lowered the mast into its place, and rowed the ship to the place where they would have her lie. There they cast out their moorings, stones, and made fast hawsers. They then got out upon the sea shore and landed the hecatomb, for Apollo. Chryseis also left the ship, and Ulysses led her to the altar and delivered her into the hands of her father. Chryseis said, He, King Agamemnon, has sent me to bring you back your child, and to offer sacrifice to Apollo on behalf of the Danaans, that we may propitiate the god who has now brought sorrow upon the Argives. So saying, he gave the girl over to her father, who received her gladly, and they ranged the holy hecatomb while orderly round the altar of the god. They washed their hands and took up the barley meal to sprinkle over the victims, while Chryseis lifted up his hands and prayed aloud on their behalf. Hear me, he cried, O god of the silver bow, that protectest Chryse and holy Scylla, and rulest Tenedos with thy might, even as thou didst hear me aforetime, when I prayed and didst press hardly upon the Achaeans. So hear me yet again, and stay this fearful pestilence from the Danaans. Thus did he pray, and Apollo heard his prayer. When they had done praying and sprinkling the barley meal, they drew back the heads of the 9 victims, and killed and flayed them. They cut out the thigh bones, wrapped them up round in 2 layers of fat, set some pieces of raw meat on the top of them, and then Preface laid them on the wood fire and poured wine over them, while the young men stood near him with 5 pronged splits in their heads. When the thigh bones were burned, they had tasted the inward meats. They cut up the rest small, put the pieces upon the spurs, roasted them till they were done, and drew them off. Then they had finished their work, and the feast was ready. They ate it, and every man had his fill share, so that all were satisfied as soon as they had had enough to eat and drink. Pages filled with mixing bowl with wine and water, and handed it around, after giving every man his drink offering. Thus all day long the young men worshipped the god with song, hymning him and chanting the joyous paean, and the god took pleasure in their voices. But when the sun went down and it came on dark, they laid themselves down to sleep by the stern cables of the ship. And when the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn appeared, they again set sail for the host of the Archaeans. Apollo sent them a far wind, so they raised their mast and hoisted their white sails aloft. As the sail bellied, and the wind, the ship flew through the deep blue water, and the foam hissed against her bows as she sped onward. When they reached the wide-stretching host of the Achaeans, they drew the vessel ashore, high and dry upon the sands, set her strong props beneath her, and went their ways to their own tents and ships. But Achilles abode at his ships and nursed his anger. He went not to the honorable assembly, and sallied not forth to fight, but gnawed at his own heart, pinning for battle and the war cry. Now, after 12 days, the immortal gods came back in a body to the Olympus, and Jove led the way. Thetis was not unmindful of the changes her son and had laid upon her. So she rose from under the sea and went through great heaven with early morning to Olympus, where she found the mighty son of Saturn sitting all alone upon its topmost ridges. She sat herself down before him, and with her left hand seized his knees, while with her right hand she caught him under the chin and besought him, saying, Father Jove, if I've ever did you service in word or deed among the immortals, hear my prayer and do honor to my son, whose life is to be cut short. So early King Agamemnon had dishonored him by taking his prize and keeping her. Honor him then yourself, Olympian, Lord of counsel, and grant victory to the Trojans. Still, the Achaeans give my son his due, and load him with richest and requital. Jove sat for a while, silent and without a word, but Thetis still kept firm hold of his knees and besought him a second time. Incline your head, said she, and promise me surely, or else deny me, for you have nothing to fear, that I may learn how greatly you disdain me. At this Jove was much troubled and answered, I shall have trouble if you set me quarreling with Juno, for she will provoke me with her taunting speeches. Even now she is always railing at me and before the other gods and accusing me of giving said giving aid to the Trojans. Go back now, lest she couldn't find out. I will consider the matter and will bring it about as you wish. See, I incline my head that you may believe me. Thus is the most solemn promises that I can give to any god. I never recall my word, or deceive, or fail to do what I say, when I have nodded my head. As he spoke, the son of Saturn bowed his dark brows, and the ambrosial locks swayed on his immortal head, till vast Olympus reeled. When the pair had thus laid their plans, and they parted Jove to his house, while the goddess quitted the splendor of Olympus and plunged into the depths of the sea, the gods rose from their seats before the coming of their sire. Not one of them dared to remain sitting, but all stood up as he came among them. There, then, he took his seat, but Juno, when she saw him, knew that he and the old merman's daughter, silver-footed Thetis, that had been hatching mischief, so she at once began to upbraid him. Trickster, she cried, which of the gods have you been taking into your counsels now? You are always settling matters in a secret land behind my back, and have never yet told me, if you could help it, one word of your intentions. Juno replied, the sire of the gods and men, you must not expect to be informed of all my counsels. You are my wife, but you would find it hard to understand them. When it is proper for you to hear them, there is no one good, god or man, who will be told sooner, but when I mean to keep a matter to myself, you must not pry nor ask questions. Dread son of Saturn, answered Juno, what are you talking about? I pry and ask questions. Never I let you have your own way in everything. Still, I believe a strong misgiving that the old with you and had hold of your knees. This self-same morning, I believe therefore that you have been promising her to give glory to Achilles, and to kill much people at the ships of the Achaeans. Wife, said Jove, I can do nothing but you suspect me, and you find out you you will take nothing by it, for I shall only dislike you the more, and it will go harder with you. Granted that it is you as you say, I mean to have it so. Sit down and hold your tongue, as I bid you, for if I once began to lay my hands about you, heaven were on your side, it would profit you nothing. On this Juno was frightened, so she curbed her stubbornness. She curbed her stubborn will and sat down in silence. But the heavenly songs were disquieted throughout the house of Jove, till the cunning workman, Vulcan, began to try and specify whether Mother Juno, it will be intolerable, began to try and pacify it for his mother Juno. It will be intolerable, said he, if you two fall so wrangling and setting heaven in an uproar about a pack of mortals of which such ill counsel to prevail. We shall have no pleasure at our banquet. Let me then advise my mother, and she should must herself on this. Juno was frightened. So she curbed her stubborn will and sat down in silence. But the heavenly beings were disquieted throughout the house of Jove, till the cunning worksman Vulcan began to try and pacify his mother Juno. It will be intolerable, said he, if you two fall to wrangling and setting heaven in an uproar about a pack of mortals. If such ill counsels are to prevail, we shall have no pleasure at our banquet. Let me then advise my mother, and she must herself know that it will be better to make friends with my dear. Let them advise my mother, and she must herself know that it will be better to make friends with my dear father Jove, lest he again scold her and disturb our feast. If the Olympian thunderer wants to hurl us all from our seats, he can do so, for he is far the strongest. So give him the fair words, and he will then soon be in a good humor with us. Fair words, and he will then soon be in a good humor with us. As he spoke, he who took a double cup of nectar and placed it in the mother's hand. Cheer up, by my dear mother, said he. Make the best of it. I love you dearly, and should be very sorry to see you get thrashings. However, grieved I might, but I could not help, for there is no standing against Jove. Once before, when I was trying to help you, he caught me by the foot and flung me from the heavenly household all the day long, from moms till eve. Was I falling till at sunset I came around in the land of Lemnos, and there I lay with very little life left in me, till the Sintians came and treaded me. Juno smiled at this, and as she smiled, she took the cup from her son's hands. Then Vulcan drew sweet nectar from the mixing bowl and served it served it round among the gods, going from left to right, and the blessed gods laughed and out loud applause as they saw him, bustling about the heavenly mansion. Thus through the livelong day to the going down of the sun, they feasted, and everyone had his full share, so that all were satisfied. Apollo struck his lyre, and the muses lifted up their sweeter voices, calling and answering one another. But when the sun's glory light had faded, they went home to bed, each in his own abode, which the lame Vulcan with his consummate skill had fashioned for them. So Jove the Olympian, Lord of Thunder, hied him to the bed in which he always slept. And when he had got on to it, he went to sleep with Juno of the golden throne by his side. And that was book 1 of the Iliad.